All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our incredible webinar here. My name is Neha Gupta, founder of College Shortcuts. Just to make sure that everything is working, if in the chat you can say yes, if you can see me and hear me, that would be incredible. So just type in the word yes if you can hear and see me before I get started, just to make sure everything is working. The chat can be found typically on the right side. Yes. Okay. Thanks, Aryan. Thanks, Lakshmi, Darshan. Perfect. Yes. Awesome. Okay, perfect. So before we get started, what I want to do is first make sure you guys are able to see, hear me. We're good to go on that. Sound check, visual check. Next thing I want to do is ask you where you're from and what grade you're in, and if you're a student or parent. So go ahead in the chat, go ahead and put that in. That's super helpful for me, just so you know it's going to be totally interactive today. I know you guys have been really enjoying your time together as a group, and so I'm really excited to be talking about college admissions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and share my slides now too. So if you can see my slides, let me know if you can see them or not. All right, great. So we got Siddharth from California senior year, Sohan, 11th grade, Virginia. Senior, Darshan Lakshmi. Okay, great. Good to see. All right, wonderful. If you can see my slides, type in yes. That would be awesome. That would be really great. LA incoming freshman. Wow, wonderful, wonderful, great. Okay, so first thing I want to talk about is my name is Neha. As I said earlier, I'm the founder of College Shortcuts. I've been doing this for over 19 years. And 95% of our students get into their top 3 choices. So what I want to do is kind of share about what happens in the admissions process. So typically when we see families applying to college, they have like usually a 9 out of 10 chance when they work with us versus 3 out of 4 chances of getting into a top school. And then without College Shortcuts, not as much of a chance usually, because we see the level of competitiveness when it comes to the essays, the profile, and everything else. And so we know it makes such a difference when it comes to the admissions process to get that type of outside help to help you understand. So today I'm going to go over a lot of my tips of what we talk about. A little background about us. Our mission is to help guide students from really 8th grade all the way through. Now, I know we've got some 9th, 10th, and 11th and 12th graders here. So no matter what grade you're in, we're here to help. Love to see this. Catherine Austin, 10th grade. Jacob Tempa, freshman. Tampa, great. Just to let you guys know, I'm based out of Houston, Texas, but we work with students all over the US and even abroad. So we're very familiar with the admissions process. What I'm going to be talking about today is my mission, which is helping students to find their passion and get into the college of their dreams. We've been featured in all sorts of news publications. You can take a look later on our website at collegeshortcuts.com. We've been featured on ABC, CBS, Fox, US News World and Report, which is the publication that focuses on the rankings list. We've been featured in Success Magazine and many, many more, of course. And then, of course, you know, it's not really about where we've been featured. It's about where our students are getting in. So super pumped to share that in terms of our students, we've had students get into all sorts of schools from Harvard, Stanford, UPenn, Rice, University of Miami, Emory, so many different schools. University of Chicago, I see a few different ones here coming up too. My alma maters, I went to UPenn and Rice University. That's my background. And our team has gone to some of the top schools across the country, and also many have worked in admissions. So what I want to tell you about is how this webinar is going to help you get into that top 1% of understanding what you need to know when it comes to the admissions process, because 99% of students don't really understand this process. They think that, you know what, I've got to get all A's. I've got to have a perfect SAT score. I've got to have, you know, all honors AP. Everything must be perfect. And the reality is that those students are a dime a dozen. When you've got 66,000 applications, and I can tell you on our end at College Shortcuts, we see hundreds of applicants filling out assessment forms to work with us. And we see how normal getting good grades is, how being in 8 APs is not always that impressive. We see it so much across the gamut. So in this webinar, I'm going to tell you about the other parts that sometimes get missed when it comes to the application. And if you have questions along the way, feel free to include them. I'm going to stop, take a look at times. This is a live interactive class. Now, I want to talk about the biggest problem in college admissions and why do college consultants even exist? Why is this even a thing? So let's go ahead and get into it. So typically the problem is that your local high school, on average, there's 500 students on average to one counselor. And typically you're getting 38 minutes per student with counselors each year. So half an hour to make a decision on the college process. I've seen students, for example, I was talking to someone yesterday that the dad was mentioning that BU is $93,000 a year or something like that. And he's like, oh my God, it's such a big decision. And I don't know if, if I was making that decision, I would want only 38 minutes once a year, right? Like we want a lot of time and thought around this process, not something where someone is running through to just pick your courses or just do your letter of recommendation really fast. If you can share how many students are in your grade in the chat, that would be super helpful. Super curious to hear about what is kind of the stats here, if this is accurate to some of our students that may be in public school versus private. Curious to see how many of you are in schools where there's maybe one counselor to upwards of 500. So I'll take a minute and wait for you guys to share and let me know. Okay, great. So some of you guys, Tisha is saying 400 students. Darshan is saying 650 plus in his grade. Armand has 430. Siddharth said around 500 kids. Catherine has 660. Siddharth said about 500. Jacob 390. So just to give you a sense, I want you to take that number and I want you to multiply it by at a minimum of 10. It's an easy number, so we'll stick with 10. Average that we see students apply to is at least 12 to 15 colleges is the range if you're a top level student. When I say top level, I mean academically top 15 to 20%. So let's just assume times 10 and put that number in the chat of how many applications do you think someone is reading? So put that in the chat. I know many of you said like 770, so times 10. How many applications is that? Once you guys put that in the chat, I'm going to then tell you how many essays to multiply that by. And then you tell me if you think it is really possible for one human or two humans to read that many. All right, so Siddharth said 5,000. Yeah, I'm going to kind of go through this. Akansh said 7,000 applications. Tisha said 4,000 applications. And then multiply that by 20. So just to give you a sense of numbers, if you had on average, let's say 5,000 applications, of which there's about 15 to 20 essays, that's a lot of essays, right? That's over 100,000, not like math's not my strong suit, English and writing is, just to be clear, but it's a lot of essays. And so to give you a sense of college shortcuts, our consultants work with a max of 8 to 9 students, and that's it. So we work on a lot less because we know that you need that kind of time. But I want you to just kind of think about those numbers and how challenging that can be when it comes to a counselor's job. So I am not somebody that is against high school counselors. I really feel for them. If I had that job, I think that would be really stressful. We're actually seeing a huge in the education space, and I got my master's in education as well. We're seeing a huge unfortunate quitting going on in the college admission space at a lot of high schools because they're so burned out. So that's really where college consulting comes from because it's so important. Sabi, I got your question here. What do you do if you don't have like straight A's? All the college counselor businesses talk about all A students. My school is academically competitive. Sabi, great question. Little background on me. I went to one of the top 3 private schools here in Houston, Texas. It was very competitive. You don't have to be an all A student. I just want to first preface it with that. And I'm sorry if that's the message you've been given, that like, oh, you have to make all A's. Well, the truth of the matter is when you learn, you make mistakes. And sometimes when you make mistakes, you aren't making a 95. So it's very normal that you're learning. We have students that even in ninth grade maybe made even a C because they were adjusting from eighth to ninth grade and they didn't know that adjustment. Type in like, ouch, if you remember that time where you were trying to adjust from high school to middle school to high school, right? It can be really hard. So, Sabi, you can still get into a competitive school. I'm going to talk about how outside of just making perfect grades. Because, like I said, perfect grades are a dime a dozen. You can get those kids, but colleges are not accepting all A students. They're accepting also average students. They're accepting students based on profiles. So, let's talk a little bit about that. So the big thing I want to talk about is I'm going to kind of move through this a little bit. So for myself, I was kind of late in the game and I knew this was really hard. And it was one of the hardest parts of my relationship with my parents because, I mean, the truth of the matter is I created College Shortcuts a lot because my mom and I and my dad and I fought all through high school. It was a horrible time in my life. And we did not get along. I mean, we were screaming, we were yelling. My parents moved here from India. And so they just like didn't really get the culture. They didn't get the application process. They didn't get that it's not all about perfect marks. And it was just really stressful in my house. And so the hardest part I had was always fear of like failing. And I constantly had that fear of failing to the point where I remember I had an anxiety attack like in 11th or 12th grade the day before one of my AP tests. And I mean, it almost killed me. It was one of the hardest times of my life. And I've had harder times since, but I remember at that time it feeling like life or death. And I just want to tell you there's light at the end of the tunnel. This is just one chapter of your life. And there's a way to do it where you can really like end up feeling like a success no matter what your situation is. And so I really had to find a solution and I did. So just to give you a little background, every time a student gets into their dream school with my program, I get really excited. So I'm going to talk to you about how I did it. What did I do to really help myself? Because the truth is, even though I went to a private school, my college counselor had said to me, even when I brought my list in, I was at the top of my class. I spoke at my high school graduation. I was that kid. And I remember her saying, like, you may not get into any of these schools, Neha. And I couldn't believe it. Like, so I want to talk to you about how I did what I did to really make sure that my admissions chances were increased and that I got into the school of my dreams. And I've been doing this for over 25,000 students for the last 19 years. So I'm going to tell you exactly how I did it. So the truth of the matter is I created a company with mentors that I wish I had when I was in high school. Really, this is, they say your mess is your message. Well, my mess was stress, anxiety, not fitting in, being an immigrant kid, trying to make it, trying to fit in, be like everybody else and do really well. And I didn't get outside help. I thought I was too good on my own. I didn't want to get that outside help. And what I've found is that 98% of children succeed in their goals by having a mentor. Right now, the Olympics are going on. Do you think that Simone Biles or any of the amazing Olympians don't have a coach? No, they all have coaches. It's just how it works. There's always somebody that's been there, done that can absolutely support you in the process. And I've helped so many students in this process, and it's been amazing with our team, really ensuring that our kids are getting the support they need. So what I'm going to talk about today is my 3-step system. It's called AIM. Not surprising, right? Since we always want to aim for the stars. So let me explain what that stands for. A is for always putting your child or you, if you're the student on the line, in the best light. 2 is the ins and outs of the college admissions process and what's going on in that office. We have some admissions officers on our team that are very, very transparent about what they look for, what they hate, and what they want in a student. So I'll be sharing a little bit about that. And M, mastering your passion. So many people think that, where's my pen? So many people think that, and I've said this before, like that this is how your passion happens. Like, oh my God, I love college admissions. Like people think that you just wake up with the light bulb and it hits you. Or parents will say like questions like at the dinner table, what do you want to study in life? What do you want to do with your life? Well, that's not really an effective way to master passion. So I'm going to talk about steps to how to get from point A to point B to figure out what that is. Let's talk about A first, always being in the best light. So make sure you know the competition and how to beat it. When it comes to being in the best light, I'm going to switch over to camera for a minute. We don't need my slides the whole time. Always being in the best light. What does that mean? That means that when you're writing your application, when you're talking about yourself, the Common Application allows 10 extracurriculars and 5 honors and awards. So if you think about those 10, you want to make sure that you're putting yourself in the best light, writing that 150 characters that's required in the most effective way possible about what you did, how you did it, and what it is that makes you different. Understanding how to organize that and talk about yourself in a positive way. In the essays, even if you've been through something challenging or hard, which many of you have, we have a lot of students that are, have just out of the pandemic and everything. And so we know that a lot of people had a really hard time during that time. But what we want to do is, if we're going to talk about a challenge or difficulty, we want to do something called the hero's journey. And what the hero's journey is that you talk about what was challenging and difficult, and then you talk about yourself in the best light. What was the transformation point? What did you learn? What were the changes that were made? And how are you going to bring it to that university specifically? So that's how you want to think about always putting yourself in the best light, is ensuring that your application is positive and it really promotes a positive attitude. Even if you're going to talk about something controversial or difficult, again, having a positive energy is very important. And then the other part about always putting yourself in the best light is, for example, many students that, we get their applications into my alma mater, UPenn, a lot of them actually get called in for interviews. And that's another place where they can really showcase who they are, what matters to them, and really, how do I say this? Really have their pitch put together in an effective way. So what does that mean? Like today, before I showed up to this call, just to give you a sense of some tips that I give you. One, I worked out for an hour. I lifted heavy weights, like 50 pounds and up, on a lot of the different machines I was doing. I got a good night's rest. I ate something before I showed up. I showered, I blow dried my hair, I put makeup on, and I have my light system right behind me. These are all the little things that you don't think about, but they all make a difference in how your energy shows up, what you feel like, and how they feel about you. Did you know, and I'm going to ask this question because I'm curious, do you know how long it takes to make a first impression? Go ahead and put in the chat how many seconds or minutes you think it takes to make a first impression. And while you do that, I'm going to have a quick sip of water real quick. Oh, I needed that. Yeah, feel free to put in the chat. Let me know. Yeah, here we go. And I see some questions coming through there. I'll get to those. Okay, so 1 minute, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 3 seconds. Tyler, you're right. 3 seconds. That's it. In that amount of time, they've already decided what they think of you before you've even opened your mouth. So if you can have everything else set up for success, it makes a huge difference, right? On that first impression. You never get a first impression again. You can get a second, but the first impression is one you want to nail. So putting yourself in the best light makes a very big difference. And I'll show you, for example, if I just showed up and I'm like, hey guys, like, woohoo, like, let's do this webinar. It's so fun. You're like, what is this person doing? And do they know how to put or if I was like, hey, so like today we're going to do a webinar and it's so awesome. Ugh, gross. You want to make sure that you think about how you present and make sure that, it's presentable and professional. And if you need to watch videos on that, just, we do interview training for our students on how to exactly pitch, how to talk under a certain amount of time, how to make sure you're not rambling, exactly how to say things, what to say. It's a skill set that you can absolutely learn, whether you're introverted or extroverted. It's not a problem. Put in the chat what you thought about what I just did in terms of those impressions. What was maybe the first thought that came to your mind of what you judged me after seeing that? I'm going to go ahead and answer some questions in the meantime while I wait for that. And don't worry, you won't hurt my feelings. I'd love to hear it because I think it's important to see. Darshit asks, is it possible to get into a top college if you're not given the chance to take many AP courses? To this question, they look at your transcript and they also look at all the other students at your school. So if they know that that high school doesn't typically have all the APs, they're not going to judge you against that. Anna asks, can a good SAT score make up for average GPA? I'm going to get into the 4 buckets of what they're looking for, but yes, a good SAT score can absolutely make a difference. And so it depends on the school, yes, Darshit, but it just depends. They're going to take a look and see what's offered at your school, right? Like there's some schools, by the way, that don't offer APs. So they're not going to sit there and say none of those kids can go into our school because they don't have APs, right? So it just really depends school to school. Okay, great. Let's move on to the next point. Ins and outs of the college admissions process. How to bend the common application to make sure you get in. So let's talk a little bit about what that means. So one of our team members was sharing with me, and I also have been extensively talking with UPenn's admissions team as well, for example, and many other top schools. And one of the things they share over and over is the importance of authenticity and sharing who you truly are and what it is that makes you you. Now, I'm going to address, because I see there's quite a few South Asian students on the line, and I know that we are post-Asian American case, we are post-affirmative action case, so there's a lot there, and I'm not going to unpack that. But what I will share is that when it comes to the college admissions process, and specifically around the South Asian profile, one of the things I always tell my students is that if you're doing certain activities, such as Decca, Hosa, Indian dance of any sort, whether it's Arangetram, Bharatanatyam, Bollywood, chess, taekwondo, piano, tennis, or karate, I can tell you that 9 out of 10 of all those activities, we see on every assessment form that comes into our doors of South Asian students. So those activities typically are not the ones that make you stand out. And I know that's a very painful thing to say because some people are like, I love those things. It's totally cool to love those things, but make sure there may be 2 out of the 10 things that you're doing from an extracurricular perspective. Now, one of the other parts that's really important is to realize that the college admissions offices have 66,000 applications to go through. So typically students wait till the deadline or wait really late to apply to college. For my seniors in the room, feel free to chat and let me know how many essays have you already written? How far are you along in this process? Applications open on August 1st, next week. And just to give you a sense, one of the things that is so important is that the essays can take a lot of work to figure out how to build who you are. What is your personal narrative? What makes you different? What makes you stand out? And the admissions offices share over and over that the essays can make or break an application. When they look at the 66,000 applicants, they're usually spending under 7 minutes per application. So you have to have a well-formatted additional resume, well-formatted application, well-formatted essay, and a beautiful interview. And that's what gets a student in. When it comes to the admissions deadlines, great question from Bhargavi, is early decision better? Well, I can tell you, you can Google that. That's a very easy question. You can look up the statistics. Early decision can sometimes have a 5 times more admissions rate into the college. So let's say, for example, if a school had a 3% acceptance rate, normal, regular, they could have a 15%, 18% acceptance rate just because someone applied early decision. The batch is smaller because early decision is for students that are 100% committed to going there. And colleges are concerned with their yield. What does that mean? They want to make sure they know how many students are committed to going to their college, and they can start building their budget and their finance around that whole thing. So some schools will admit upwards of 60% of their freshman class in early decision, and then the rest is 40%. But in that 40% is the kids that wait till last minute to apply and do regular, and that's like 40,000 applicants. So all of a sudden, let's say there's 2,000 students applying early decision, 15% get in, you can do the math. versus 40% of students, the remainder, so maybe a less than 3 or 4% chance getting in out of like 40,000 kids. It's a much smaller percentage. While it's very challenging, it is very important to think about. So admissions offices want you to know that the earlier you get your work done and you fill in everything and you submit it, the better your chances are of getting in. To give you a sense, most of our students started in January, February of their 11th grade. They signed up with us in fall of 11th grade to get set up. So it's really, really important. Okay, let's talk about the last part. Oh, my example. Meet the candidates. Lisa, I'm trying to read my screen. GPA 4.5, SAT 1550, and Shelly, GPA 4.5, 1450, SAT. So I'm curious, who do you think they're going to accept, Lisa or Shelly? They both have the same GPA. Lisa's got the 1550 and Shelly's got the 1450. So Darshit said the second student. Darshit said, I think it's going to be Shelly that gets in. Okay, good question. Good response. Anybody else curious about who gets in? So the assumption is the higher, the second student. I'm not sure which one Darshit, but most of the time the assumption is the higher SAT gets in. The truth is there is no answer to this question because you don't know the rest of the equation here. Yes, depends on ECs from Rithel, correct. It depends on extracurriculars, it depends on the essays, and it depends on the interview. Those are the other parts. Now let's talk about the M, mastering your passion. This is the part that most people don't think about. Now, when it comes to the essay process, and we have created for our team and our students entire documents of the number of supplements that are required. Like, let's say, for example, you're applying to 10 top colleges, you're looking at 40 to 45 essay prompts at least. We've had some students have to write 100 essay prompts across 15 to 18 schools. So the big part about mastering your passion is you can't write an essay and say, I really want to be a doctor because my dad's a doctor. That worked in India. It doesn't work here, right? Like, you're going to have to talk about some of the experiences that you've had. And one of the big things that we've seen in admissions is that when you have a research paper that has been published online, you have a higher increase of getting in. And so we actually have built an entire mentorship program around helping students to write a research paper in their passion and then be able to get published online. The second part that's really big is a leadership project in your passion. So for example, we have students who are really interested in pre-med. We had a student who was super interested in women's health and poverty, and she did an entire research paper around women's health. She actually created kits for women in India and Africa, and she actually created a whole website and a movement and raised thousands of dollars towards that and sold these kits online and also raised sponsors and all of those types of things. So that was very impressive. She's also attended many summer camps around medicine. She shadowed doctors. She's done a lot of different types of things. So her resume shows she's really interested in medicine. We've had students interested in computer science, engineering, build websites, do different things, write research papers, and also do leadership projects. We've gotten students into all the top summer programs through the applications that we've helped them with in our mentorship program. And that is how you really showcase your mastering of passion, right? Because then when you're writing an essay on why did you pick this major? Why do you want to go to our college? What programs are you interested in? What type of class would you create if you were here? Tell us more about what makes you tick. All these types of questions are 400 to 600 words. It's really important that you have a compelling story or a moment or a turning point or ways you've created large impact. And so mastering passion is everything. It is not a time anymore in the admissions process where you just apply undecided and the answer is, I don't know. That doesn't work anymore. In today's world with Coursera, Udemy, all these different ways to learn, you can easily build projects and try things and shadow and intern. And there's ways to get immersed. And they are looking for change makers. They're looking for activists. They're looking for people that don't just go to class and go home and watch video games. There's 66,000 applicants. Again, they're picking the top 2,000. And these are the ones that have a voice. They're outspoken. They tend to be a little more extroverted. They tend to be leaders. They tend to be change makers, impact like global citizen types. And if you feel like you know that these qualities are qualities you need to work on, you need to reach out to us because these are very important. These passion projects are all things we help our students create. So that's a great question. Now, what are the 4 factors that matter in admissions specifically? Specifically, it's the GPA, the test scores, SAT or ACT. It is back, and we do have SAT, ACT tutoring if you do need help with that. The resume and extracurricular activity, which is where we help students in our mentorship program to build out their resume and build their passion and find things customized to what they truly desire and love and want to do in life. And for example, in the Japanese culture, they talk about ikigai, how to find something you can get paid to do that you love to do and that brings you joy. That's really what our mentorship program is about. And then, of course, well-written essays. So the essay application part where you're really boiling down very clear who you are and what you stand for. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what it is that we do with families, because I know that I've shared a lot about our AIM formula, how to aim for the stars, always putting yourself in the best light, what's going on in those ins and outs of those admissions offices, and M, how to master your passion and how to showcase that so that you don't look like every other student and fall through the cracks. So kind of really walk through all the little steps that we do with our students. So I want to talk about what it is that College Shortcuts specifically does, if you're interested in learning more about how we help students to do this. And why do we do this? Again, like I shared earlier, I fought with my parents all the time, but also my parents didn't go to school here, or like many of our students, many parents applied when they mailed in their applications and they applied to like 4 schools and got in. It's a very different time now with the common application with 60,000 applicants versus like 8,000 applicants. So most parents are trying to guide and coach when they don't actually know the process fully. And it's also really hard between the parent and the teenager to like make that happen. Type in yes if you know what I'm talking about, if you've ever experienced friction, and how challenging that can be. That's why we do what we do every day. So let's talk about what we do. With our mentorship program, what we do, and if you're interested in booking a call with us, I'll share it later. I'm doing a special for you guys. So 8th through 11th grade mentorship, we offer a mentorship program that is 1 year, year after year. And we work with students to help them with their academic course selection, analyzing their test scores, building out their extracurricular strategy around extracurriculars inside of school and outside of school. We also talk about career path and how to build your passion. We work on research papers with you that will absolutely get published, as well as passion projects. One of our students asked, like, where do you find these? We actually build them out customized to each student so that you don't look cookie cutter. And we come up with lots of different strategies and plans to build out projects. We also talk about the power and importance of community service and giving back and summer planning. Actually, all of our students that were in our mentorship program attended at least one summer camp, of which many got into summer camps that had a less than 1% acceptance rate into some of their programs. For example, we had students that attended the Wharton camp, Brown, Yale, and so many more. And it all boils down to how they apply and how we've built their profile. In addition, we also teach things like emotional maturity and confidence, time management, and how to apply to scholarships in our mentorship program as well. We really do believe in the power of soft skills because we know that that is the aspect of admissions that people don't really think about. They think it's just grade scores and get in. And again, it really boils down to your personality type and how you pop off the paper through your personality. So our mentorship program is offered usually between 8th and 11th grade, and we have a group format. We'll be launching a new group in September. We are now taking spots. I limit that to a very small group of students that I actually run that program. And then I have my one-on-one with my team in terms of one-on-one coaching through the year. And then for the college application process, this is where we really go through the applications in terms of all the different steps. And I'm actually going to have someone jump on here to share a little bit about what they did, a high schooler just like you, to talk about their experience and what they've accomplished. So you can see a live example of what I'm talking about when I talk about gaining the competitive edge. So in terms of the application process, We help you to curate your school list, how to build that list, how to figure out what schools make sense within the reach, target, and safety to build a well-balanced list. A lot of time, college counselors at school cannot do that for you. It takes a long time. We help you to build your unique angle. Like I shared, building that personal narrative matters. We talk about how to build your essays, creating the perfect essays, how to craft and create your resume. We'll talk about letter of recommendation strategy, application management, and we'll go through every single page to make sure your application is perfect. We also offer unlimited editing as of this year to ensure that everything is perfect as well. Now, to give you a sense, on average, students that work with us get $30,000 to $300,000 in scholarships across a 15-school list. 95% of our students are getting into their top 3 choices. And like I said, 98% of students succeed in life when they have a mentor by their side. So I have a special offer today to you guys. I want to talk to you a little bit more about it. I'm very excited to kind of share that with you. And what it is we're doing a special for you guys. If you go to collegeshortcuts.com/apply, we're going to be offering a scholarship to you guys. And my team already knows, as long as you put in the assessment form, HS Navigator, then we know that's where you came from. But make sure to put that in. In that, we're going to talk about our back to school pricing for you. We have different packages depending on what you're looking for the number of applications, to the types of schools. So for any of my students that are going into 11th grade that are planning on doing applications, we would do a little bit of mentorship, and then we would do applications with you. You can get in on those specials. Just to be clear, that is if you book the call within the next 24 hours. So as you're watching this, if you schedule that call, even if it's a few days later, but we know it got booked within 24 hours, we will offer you the special pricing as a special for each and every one of you guys. I'll put that in the chat as well here, so you guys have that. And in terms of our mentorship, of course, we have a few mentorship spots available. We got started, of course, already with a lot of students, but we do have some mentors available as well. What I'd like to do now is actually invite one of my students on to here. Oh my God, Abby, you're here. Hey, I don't know if I can hear you yet. Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Hey, Abby.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great, great. I'm going also on here. So let me type in the link. It's so good to see you.
Likewise.
I know it's been a while, right? So what I want to do is just kind of share a little bit and ask some questions just so that everybody kind of gets a sense of what College Shortcuts has done for you. So I know we started with you at kind of the beginning, early part of high school. If you could share a little bit about your mentorship experience and talk a little bit about how your resume got built from before you started with us versus with your counselor at school versus with us.
Yeah. So I joined group mentorship, as you said, like a year or two ago, and I think it's been a really transformative experience, honestly. I think what really, really stands out is how it helped me develop certain skills I hadn't previously given a lot of thought to. So, I mean, of course, like the elevator pitch preparation. So I never really considered how important it is to like present yourself or your ideas. I would just kind of put everything out there and hope it was enough to convince somebody. So when we practice like crafting and delivering elevator pitches to like the students in the meetings and myself specifically to admissions officers, I think that was really eye-opening, the way it taught me how to like highlight my skills and strengths and unique qualities in a really short amount of time. And then in regards to specifically the resume, I came in, I think, with the basics like HOSA, like tennis, karate, like all the like normal things that I guess the majority of South Asian students do. But I think throughout the program, especially my most favorite part was the research. So I was able to conduct a study and research with Brown. And then, of course, I was able to write that paper that way and kind of get more experience with able to, distill research faster, analyze studies, be able to write a physical research paper that will be published pretty soon. So I think all of this was really, really a nice experience, and that was something I could additionally add to my resume. But not just that. I think especially the soft skills when I was interviewing for other internships was really key to me, because that's how I got my internship with a nutraceutical company. So doing this, my research has been presented across like international forums at the Anti-Aging for Medicine conference, the International College of Surgeons. So that was actually really interesting. I got to interact with surgeons from Brazil, Australia. Like, it was a really interesting experience. The Florida Chiropractic Physician Association. But the main reason I got the internship when I was talking to the recruiters was it was how I portrayed myself during the interviews and how I was able to really present myself in a way that showed not only why they should accept me, but I would be the best fit for them, and this is why. So I think college shortcuts really helped with that.
Yeah, I remember when your mom first emailed me and she said you were shy, right?
Yeah.
And it's really clear that you've come out of your shell big time. In terms of your experience in high school and now going into senior year, which I know we never thought would happen, but it is happening finally. And I'm sure you've got other friends and you know kind of where they're at in the process. I'm curious to hear about the experience that your friends are having that are at your high school. How many kids go there? And then what's going on with you since you're working with us?
Yeah. So I'm gonna start with last year though. While I was a junior, a lot of my friends went through, the college admissions process for sure. And it was really interesting because they would be skipping classes some days. They would be skipping school because their applications were due the next day,
Oh
or
my
they just needed time to like recap all of their thoughts and write them down so that way they could finish some essays. So I thought that was crazy because I mean, okay, I'm all for like, skipping school occasionally, but like
gosh.
only to join or do something else. But the fact that a lot of students were skipping classes just to finish their essays for a college process that could have started a lot earlier, I thought that was really crazy, honestly. So even now a lot of my friends haven't started on their essays. I mean, of course some colleges are going to be releasing their prompts a little later, but the majority of them are still there.
90% are out.
Right.
I mean, and then,
um,
yeah.
Right. And I mean, the majority are out, which is why when I started the process in March, I've been able to do at least 30, 35 essays so far, maybe more. I haven't counted, but
Yeah, you're at 80% completion rate.
right. So
According to
I've been
your
able to
semester.
finish
I
or
already
knock
checked.
out a lot of them. But a lot of my friends haven't started yet. So I think that's the major difference.
Yeah, Abby, I get every email. Most of you guys don't know this, but I get every email of every comment and every change that anyone ever makes to a document. And I think, Abby, you've since March gone in and like written and worked on probably over 1,000 different things in terms of your essays. Wouldn't you say? I mean, it's like you are spending, and you're spending different times. Like I get your emails and it's like Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings. And like even today, you're doing a practice ACT. Like, kind of share about how like this is something where you have to be committed and want this for your future and why college shortcuts is a shortcut in the process for you.
Yeah, I think for sure it is a shortcut, especially when I think it comes to application fast track. The way when I started, I was kind of, I mean, of course, I've never done this process before. I know people who have done it, but not necessarily had somebody with them to guide them through the process. So it's not like they're going to do the things for you. Of course, you're going to have to do, researching what colleges you want to go to. You're going to have to write the essays, but it's helpful to have somebody on the side helping you say, hey, I think you're answering this prompt well, you're on the right track, but maybe gear it a little more towards the community aspect. I think this is where you're weaker here. Or maybe you're touching on a lot of the other experiences that you have. See if you can add some of your personal experiences and how they might tie into what you're going to accomplish at the university. So I think those tips make an essay go from like midline to really well. And that was a step that really helped shortcut wise.
Yeah. And a lot of people say things to me like, well, I got an English teacher. Like, I'm sure my English teacher can look over it. What would you say is the difference between an English teacher versus a college shortcuts admissions consultant?
So for sure, I had my English teacher look over a couple of essays before I submitted them too, and I also had College Shortcuts review them as well, actually. So the hugest difference was that my English teacher, I mean, of course, she's really good with grammar. Like, she can, do the same things that the college shortcuts admissions office or admissions reviewers will do, but that's only limited to grammar. They can also tell you, maybe you're missing some stuff here and here. You might not be able to fully address the prompt, but I'm sure that an English teacher does not have the same experience as an admissions officer with college shortcuts. They've reviewed hundreds of thousands of applicants, I'm sure. So the main difference is kind of just like an admissions officer knows what to look for. They're saying, okay, this student, you don't have this, or you're missing something here. Your English teacher can maybe help you with addressing the prompt more thoroughly. But I think to make sure you have all aspects that admissions officers are really looking for, a college
Yes.
shortcuts person would be better.
Absolutely. I mean, we go through your resume. We're helping you build it. So we can be like, hey, pull this specifically from this research. Oh, you got featured in Mind Body Green. Pull that. Okay. Also, you did this with Dreamlight Foundation. Like, right. Like, I know Ubby's profile like the back of my hand because he's been with us for so long. And he has like pretty much, we started off with a 15-page resume, but we got it down to
Yeah,
like,
we did.
we got to cut down a little bit, but he's just done so much because he's a student that wants it, and I think that aspect when he talks about soft skills, like you have to be hungry, you have to want this, you have to push, you have to put yourself out there. And so Abhi, just to end it, I'd love to hear like what do you have to say to the student that is on the fence or isn't sure if they really need this help or is slightly introverted and they're unsure of themselves in this process. I mean, think back to 2 to 3 years ago, and what would you say to that kid?
Do it. Like, you need to be able to put yourself out there. You need to trust yourself. Of course, you need to be the one that really wants to accomplish what you want to do. So you have to push yourself to do it. If you have to take advantage of any single opportunity that you have available to you. So I think this program would be the best way to do that and capitalize on every single thing that you could do to know that when you submitted that application, you did everything you possibly could to hopefully receive your acceptance.
Awesome. Thanks, Abby, for joining. So
Yeah, of
sweet of
course.
you on your amazing Sunday. And so glad to have you here. And guys, just to give you a sense, Abby's one of our amazing testimonials. We have students just like him on our website at collegeshortcuts.com under testimonials that have shared their experience and how much they've really loved working with us. But Abby, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Have a good day.
You too.
So, guys, I hope you enjoyed this webinar about how to aim for the stars. And I'm just going to end it here. I love each and every one of you, even if we've never met. I hope that I've given you at least one tidbit or one aspect that can help you. Please share this so that you can really make sure to help somebody else as well. But we look forward. And again, like I said, I'm going to share the slides one more time. Again, if you schedule a call with us, it's totally free to schedule that call. I've got Jeff ready to go. He's opened up his calendar, ready to rock and talk to you guys because he knows that I'm doing this webinar today. Please go ahead and schedule at collegeshortcuts.com. In the top corner, it's book an assessment or schedule a call. Or if you want to go straight to it, it's collegeshortcuts.com/apply. Have an awesome, awesome day, everybody. And if there's any questions you guys might have, please feel free to go ahead and ask them if you have any questions. Oh, great question. Siddharth, can you get my email address? Yes, absolutely. Let me put that in the chat. Collegeshortcuts.com. Oh, weird. It's not typing. Collegeshortcuts.com. So that's my personal email. Don't share that out too much. Neha at collegeshortcuts.com. It's not letting me do it. I'm going to just type it with the spaces. There it is. Okay, sorry about that. In terms of who to speak to, in terms of your situation, it's going to be Jeff on my team. I'm going to send you his calendar right here. He's the one that does the free call, really gets a sense My role in the company is CEO, so I manage our consultants and our team and our clients. So that's kind of more my end. And then in terms of pricing, it's actually customized depending on what kids want. So it really depends on if the student's looking for, working on a research paper, mentorship, if the student's wanting to do, a certain number of applications, if they're wanting to do Ivies or top schools or schools close to them. So we actually customize each of our students' packages. Darshit, would you be able to get me as your consultant? Typically, you work with a consultant on my team. I do have some spots available, but it's at a different price point, but it's something you can talk to Jeff about. But we do have an entire team of my admissions consultants. To give you a sense, I look at everything from your resume, essays, everything as you're doing the work. So just to give you a sense on that. But definitely feel free to reach out to Jeff on my team at collegeshortcuts.com/apply. Like I said, we'll be doing a special specifically for you guys at High School Navigator. So if you do schedule that call, make sure to schedule it. And then after that, you'll see a link at the end. Go ahead when you get to that link on the next page. It says fill out this form, the assessment form, so we can learn more about you. And then we can go from there. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. It's been so amazing to see each and every one of you. Again, love you guys so much. Please share this with anybody that you know that could really be helpful or in anything of that in that nature. We'll go from there. Thanks so much, everybody.